Welcome to the Public Safety. Welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting on September 8th at 5:00 p.m. Actually, does anybody have a watch on? What time is it now? So the minutes be straight. What time is it? Anyone?
5:21.
Okay, today's meeting is starting at 5:21 p.m. Attending this meeting is Councilman Cloris Lay, Councilman Ron Brewer, Councilman Cozy Weatherspoon, Councilman William Godwin, Fire Chief Sean O'Donnell, and Police Chief Brian Evans, and Councilwoman Mary Brown, as well as Attorney Winter Williams. All right.
Council Lady Ty Atkins is also present.
Who?
Council Lady Ty Atkins.
I don't see it on here. Oh, I see her this year. I'm sorry, Ty. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. All right. First thing on our agenda, we have two subjects today: CPO 2020-46 and CPO 2020-47. All right, CPO 2020-46, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, dealing with regarding the commanding officers for the fire department. Chief O'Donnell, can you hear me? Chief?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. Good evening, Councilman.
Good evening. Good evening. Would you like to discuss this ordinance?
Yes, sir. It's okay to go?
Yes, yes.
Good evening. Thank you. Good evening, Councilman and Councilwomen. This ordinance is one of the we're trying to be fiscally responsible in the fire department right now, and the lieutenant rank is, which I am by civil service, a lieutenant. There are 10 lieutenants in the total Gary Fire Department, and it's a officer rank. And what we're looking at doing is eliminating that position, because all of the lieutenants, when we give the very next promotional exam, will become captains. The lieutenants right now are filling in as acting captains because of retirement. So I have 7 lieutenants right now that are actually filling in the position of captain. And there's going to be an 8th spot here come October, and then there'll be two more captains that are retiring in March and April of next year. So all 10 lieutenants will have the opportunity to be captains. So with the elimination of the spot, because they will be getting promoted to captain, and I don't have any double houses anymore in the city. The rank came about is in a double house like Station 1 across from City Hall. To give you a little idea, we used to have a truck and an engine in the house. So you had a captain that rode one piece of apparatus, a lieutenant rode the other piece of apparatus. Well, we don't have that anymore right now just because of financial constraints, and we haven't had that really in a long time. And if we do, you could just have 2 captains in a house if we do get back to that at some point in the future, because we hope to do some double houses again, but everything bases off the budget. So with the savings of eliminating the rank, then we were going to use that savings to help hire firefighters. So take that salary from not having to have lieutenants and be able to hire firefighters with that money. The only thing I wanted to add, and I talked to Attorney Jenkins, was if a lieutenant decides that he does not wish to take the promotion to captain, he will not lose his lieutenant rank. So if I decide, I don't want to become a captain, I'd rather just stay as lieutenant, then I will keep that amount of lieutenants on the budget, which would be only one, maybe one probably. One may not want to move up, but the rest of them all are filling the positions right now will want that captain's position. So this will be a promotion, and then we'll save the money. So nobody would be eliminated from being an officer. But if all take the promotion, then we don't have that problem, and the spot just goes away. And I
Questions?
apologize for being new at this, so being a new fire chief and administrator here, so bear with me with everybody else.
That's no apology necessary. Any questions from the council members regarding this?
Go ahead.
How many slots are there currently? How many lieutenants is it currently?
There is a total of 10 currently. 7 are in fire suppression and 3 are in support services.
And what is the savings that you're looking at to be saved to hire?
Councilman, please forgive me. I haven't looked, was when we did our budget, but we're looking at it, I believe, because the lieutenant's about $53,000 salary without including the benefits. I believe it's about $400,000 savings. But forgive me for not having the exact number in front of me. The budget's new, and we have did our budget this year and turned it in, and redoing some spots. That's what we, I believe we came up with just on the lieutenant's rank.
So by us eliminating the lieutenant, that means the rank and file, instead of them being promoted to lieutenant, they would be automatically promoted to the captain position.
No.
The lieutenants that are presently lieutenants, they will get, because there's enough captains positions, they will automatically become captains. And what it does is the engineers, so the fire structure rank is you go from firefighter to engineer, which is a driver, to lieutenant, to captain, to battalion chief. So now what would happen is the engineers, instead of testing for lieutenant, would test straight to captain. But you have to promote all us lieutenants first. And then once we're all out the way, then those engineers would fill in, would come up through the captain, to the captain's rank.
So does that affect the rank and file any for a promotion?
No, not necessarily, because I'm eliminating the rank, but actually I'm allowing the guy that's an engineer, he won't have to test for lieutenant. So that guy that's an engineer is now going to get the test right to captain. So where I had a test to become a lieutenant, and now the captain, that engineer is going to skip that whole rank and he's going to jump right to captain.
Thank you. I have no more questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just a couple questions. Thank you, Chief O'Donnell. Can you say more about the testing, what that entails for each of these levels? Secondly, what the union's position on this is? And thirdly, does it create any morale concerns with folks being able to sort of jump over things that others had to do prior to them? Thank you.
No problem, sir. Good evening. So the union had the union president actually in, James Powell, in the budget when we sat and did our budget this year. And the union president, Powell, was actually on board with this plan. The testing process consists of the Civil Service Commission does the testing process for all ranks. So that's based off of numerous books, depending the rank that you're testing for. They give us the books. We study the books. An outside firm, I believe it's PCI Consultants, an outside firm administers and grades the test, and then you're ranked accordingly in your depending for what rank you're going for. That has nothing to do with myself or the fire department. That's strictly the Civil Service Commission on the test. Essentially, it shouldn't create a morale problem because, one, we don't have double houses anymore. So we need firefighters on the streets. I don't need a bunch of chiefs and not enough gentlemen on guys and girls on the streets. So what this is doing is, one, all these lieutenants now, including myself, will become the rank of captain once we test. It's just a matter of which one is number 1 and which one's number 10. As I said, 7 of them right now today are filling in as captains. So all 7 are filling in right now as captains. And like I said, there's 3 of us that work in supportive services. So we will all become captains. And now what it's doing is actually making it easy for the engineers, because those engineers will now not have to take a lieutenant's test. They will get the test from engineer, and become a captain, depending on where they score at. So they're actually getting, helped out, where I had to go through all the process and many before me. But to hire firefighters, which we sorely need because we're short, and retirements and disabilities and many things, that savings would be able to go to hiring of firefighters.
Mr. Chair.
Chief O'Donnell?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Cozy Weatherspoon, I hope you're doing well today.
Yes, sir.
Hope that you can answer this for me. What is the job description speak for captains, and what is the present job description for captains? Can you answer that for me?
You mean for captains and lieutenants, sir, or just for captains?
Yes, for both. What is the job description speak for both presently right now?
Both are supervisory positions. The lieutenant actually reports to the captain, and the way it's been in practice is the lieutenant is in charge of one piece of apparatus. The captain is the overall station supervisor and rides the other piece of apparatus. So in a double house, like Station 1 is next to the Railcat Stadium, we have an engine and a truck, or we used to. So the captain would ride he's the station commander, and the lieutenant is after him. So they're essentially the same position. One rides one rig, one rides the other. When the captain is on vacation, then the lieutenant actually normally becomes the relief captain in that position. So they're both supervisory positions, and you're in charge of a crew, but you're just assigned in one house.
So in other words, what you're telling me is the captain runs the firehouse, and
Yes,
the
sir.
lieutenant is basically his vice, so he can running that particular house.
The lieutenant does what, sir? I'm sorry.
The lieutenant, of course, is the vice to the captain. You might,
Yes,
for lack
exactly.
of better words, in running that particular house.
Yes, but since we do not have double houses right now, those lieutenants all work as
How
captains.
many guys you have?
Presently, how many firehouses do we have?
Presently, I have
1, 2,
8, 7. I have 6 engine. I have 9 firehouses total up and running in the.
Chief, give me 1 second. I can hear some background noise. Can somebody turn down whatever that is?
Yes, sir.
And then after that, it doesn't matter.
Attorney, what,
Take care of the food.
Is that Attorney Williams?
They're gonna do the name tag.
Attorney Williams?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear the background noise. I think it's coming from you.
Okay,
Can you-
Captain. I'm sorry.
So presently today in the city, right now today, I'm running 6 engine companies throughout the whole city, and I'm running 2 ladder trucks and 5 ambulances.
So that's a total of 9 firehouses, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me ask, and just for my lack of knowledge,
Yes, sir.
you said you will have 10 captain positions. What will be the responsibility of that 10th? If you have 9 firehouses, what will be the responsibility of that 10th captain?
Oh no, all those positions, there's enough captains retiring, so all 10 lieutenants will get the opportunity to become captains, is what I'm saying.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
you said you have 9 firehouses, correct? Am I correct in that? 9 firehouses?
Yeah, you're getting me. Station 1. I got to think here. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7s, 9s, 13s, 12. So I have eight companies up and running right now, and sometimes a 9th company. So there's sometimes a 9th or 10th company. Depends on people coming to work in that.
So I'm just asking for the sake of understanding myself.
No, sir. That's fine.
Toward you. I'm just wondering, if we got 9 firehouses, the captains are in charge of a firehouse apiece.
Right.
What would be the responsibility of that 10th captain?
Oh, he would be in charge of a house. If that, a house that would be a house open, so it wouldn't be an extra or an overage. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have several statements as opposed to questions. The issue should go back to the Fire Commission. In other words, they're bypassing the Fire Commission. Of course, this council may not understand there is a Fire Commission composed of the FOP, has 2 the mayor has two, and this council has two. It would seem to me you would want to hear something from that commission if they were in agreement. Now, and again, I simply get along quite well with Chief O'Donnell, but it's something I don't understand here. If these individuals, he's telling you that you can take a out of high school, bypass high school and go to college and take a test. That's exactly what he's saying. So it's a difference between a person coming from, I guess, engineering, studying for the lieutenant, and then studying for the captain. So in other words, I sort of did that in law school, but that's a very difficult task. It would seem to me that that's going to be very difficult to do. And as I understand, he's saying all of these people are acting captains. Will they ever have to take the captain exam? And if they fail the exam, you just keep in the acting positions. Clearly, they're not competent to be captains if they fail the exam. So maybe they don't take the exam and they just sit there and continue to be paid as captains. So again, I think what's going on here shouldn't be here at this point. I think it should be discussed at another level. It has nothing to do with, I think Mr. Godwin said, I guess something how the fire department feel, how the workers in the fire department feel about it. It's the commission I think we should look to. We seem to going around these commissions. And I believe it should go back to the commission. Let the commission itself say whether or not you should eliminate the rank. At one point, way back, I in fact represented, I was the original attorney on the police commission. At that time, the former Mayor Hatcher got rid of a rank and put another rank in place. I would assume we would still have to budget for these lieutenants. So I'm not sure how we save money. If he eliminates the payments to lieutenants in the budget, then you can't pay these people. I won a lawsuit against the police commission, against the city, when they tried to do something similar with the police commission. So that's what it sounds like. He's not going to budget for even this one lieutenant. If he's not budgeted, I'm not sure how he's paid. He can't be paid as a captain if he sits there as a lieutenant. Also, these people may not desire to take the test. Some patrolmen, or I'm sorry, some firemen will sit there. Same way with some patrolmen. They for some reason don't even try to get promoted. They don't want to study. They don't want to do it. So I think it's before the council, as most things are, but we don't seem to understand prematurely. It shouldn't be here at this stage. They should do some of the work below and then come here and make it crystal clear exactly what the money is. But to vaguely tell you, and again, I appreciate Chief O'Donnell. I think he knows that it's too vague for this council to function, but you have a vote, so I'm sure you will function. But they should do something before we start getting rid of ranks and things of that nature. The commission should be, the advice of the commission, we should at least, out of respect for them, and sometimes we don't seem to have respect, at least ask them how do they feel about it.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Attorney Williams, yes, I was trying to interject earlier. I'm not sure if you all could hear me, but different than the ordinance that was presented on the behalf of the police department. I totally agree with Attorney Lay that, again, 5882, the council has granted the authority to do this very thing that the chief is requesting to the commission. The powers that were granted, I want to say back in 84, correct me if I was wrong, Attorney Lay.
I think it's 82. I think it was 82.
Okay. In 82, the council granted that authority to the commission. So absolutely, this is going around the commission. The request should first be made to the fire commission. And if the fire commission denies it, or if the chief is unsatisfied with the results, of course he can come to the council. But again, as I stated with the ordinance pertaining to hires, this too, I believe, usurps the authority of the commission. And I too would recommend that this is placed back in committee, until which time the commission, the fire commission in this case, would have an opportunity to comment on it. In fact, not just comment, the rules should first be attempted to be changed in the commission.
I basically agree with that.
So,
I think it was December the 21st, 1982. I don't have it in front of me when that was done. And you have to be very careful, Mr. Chairman, with this fire commission. The fire commission have different rules than the police commission. In other words, if you get rid of 5882, I believe the fire department would go under an Indiana statute, maybe even the police too, but this one is clearly a separate statute that you can't do the same thing with the fire department that they have done with the command staff of the police department. So we should be very careful when we do these things rather than, you know, shoot from the hip and do things. That seems to be the way we're doing things now. We just do it, I guess, because we got votes.
Mr. President?
Councilman Brewer.
Yes, I would like to ask the chief, has this went before the commission that's been outlined by Attorney Williams and Councilman Lay? And, you know, how do we end up at this point here before the city council?
It hasn't went there.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councilman. I apologize.
He told you it hasn't went there. He said he went to the FOP president.
Councilman Williams, can I speak?
Yes.
Yes, sir. So, first of all, I'll apologize. We're not trying to go around the commission. I was told, you know, and like I said, I'm new, so I'm not going to beat that horse. I was told I have to come to the council by legal because it's a council ordinance that these ranks are in the ordinance. So that's why I started this route, not to go around the council at all or the commission at all, because this is in the city ordinance. So that's why we went this route at all. And the Councilman Lay is correct. If I have an individual that does not wish to take the rank, then I will keep that spot budgeted. I'm not looking. I could say, hey, I don't want the rank. So if I had one or two guys, but most of them, if not all, are going to take the rank because they're all filling the position now.
Mhm.
So they are going to take the rank. But however, I will follow whatever the council wishes to do. I believe Attorney Jenkins is on the line, but I was only following the advice of legal.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, so I'm not misunderstood. I was not blaming Chief O'Donnell of trying to get around the commission. I'm saying the action gets around the commission. And I suspect maybe many of the councilmen may not be clear on how you go to the commission and how you get around the commission. So I'm not blaming you, Chief O'Donnell.
Yes, sir. That's okay.
Yeah, I understand. That's why I said when you answered the initial question, you said you only went to the FOP president, and I think Mr. Brewer asked you, had you been to the commission? Yeah, it looked to me that was very clear you hadn't been there.
No, sir.
And probably with no intent to go there. And you will have a problem if you have lieutenants. They have to be budgeted in order to be paid.
Yes.
And I think it's much harder for a person to go from engineer to captain. The test is different. Although I've never taken the exam, but I've been informed that it's a slightly more difficult test. It also requires you to have some supervisory experience to get through that test. You get none from the engineer. He has no supervisory experience. You get it at the lieutenant level. That's the first level, I believe, you actually get supervisory experience, although it may be limited. But you're saying, well, we can go all the way to captain without even, well, that's like I say, you're in college now because you bypassed all of high school. I don't see how that works.
Well, Mr. Chair, Attorney Williams, again, that's the very issue. In fact, this violates several of the commission rules under 5882. To be eligible to be promoted, you would have first had to serve in that position for 2 years under the current rules. So this would be a direct violation of that very rule of the commission. All the reason why this absolutely should go to the commission. If they do choose to change this, they have to reconcile the other rules in which this will create a direct conflict, and they would have to make those changes simultaneously. And if in fact they do, it requires no action of the council. The council in 5882 has dedicated the authority to create the rules and regulations to that commission. So again, if this takes its proper course, everything's done, this requires no action of the council.
Attorney Williams? Attorney Williams?
Yeah.
Do you know when the next commission meeting is for the fire department?
The
Or
fire
Chief, do you know?
commission,
Yes.
the third Thursday of each month. That would be the 17th of September.
Chief,
Yes, sir.
do you understand what was discussed?
Yes, sir. I'll start there and see where we wind up at
Okay.
on that.
Any other questions for the chief? Let's move on to the second and
Thank
final
you for your
ordinance.
time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Not a problem, chief. Let's move on to the second and final ordinance, which is CPO 47, CPO 2020-47. Is an ordinance requiring gas stations and certain 24-hour establishments to establish security cameras and provide armed security guards for the protection of patrons. Chief Evans? Chief Evans? Chief Evans, can you?
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay. We are on the CPO 2020-47, an ordinance requiring gas stations and certain 24-hour establishments to install security cameras and provide armed security guards for the protection of patrons. Would you like to speak
So
on
this
it?
is, I will speak. I will answer questions on the councilman. I did not sponsor this ordinance.
It's sponsored. This is
Yeah, it
sponsored by the
didn't-
mayor.
Yes, sir. I can answer any questions you may have on the gas stations themselves, security at them, and give you the numbers that we have at the gas station. So I read this ordinance in its entirety just today, but just a moment. And I can tell you the numbers that we have at the gas stations themselves. So to date, year to date, we've had 15 shootings at various gas stations within the cities, and 6 of them have resulted in homicides. I can give you the locations of those gas stations, and they've occurred from the first of this year, actually the first day of the year until now. Our first homicide actually was at 3115 West 15th Avenue at the gas station, which we know as 15th and Clark Road. We also had a homicide at the gas station at 45th and Broadway. We had 2 at 49th and Broadway. The other gas stations where we have had shootings at are the ones at 5th and Ohio, which is right down on 5th Avenue, and 49th in Georgia.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Lay.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Chief, that you should be given addresses on businesses like that. I mean, and again, I'm not questioning the accuracy of it, but I'm not sure it's proper to do that. I think you can simply tell us at this point that an incident has occurred. Maybe that's the only incident that's ever occurred at that station. And I guess everybody go to truck stops. I'm not sure I wouldn't do what you're doing. You're affecting these private businesses. If they're that bad that you want to affect them, close them.
I apologize for that. Councilman Lay, I had asked him to present that information to us tonight. So, Chief, I apologize for that request. But there has been 15 shootings that led to 6 homicides, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Any council members want to discuss this order?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I do. It would seem to me this is not an expensive cost. In other words, a camera, a camera is, you probably could do it for $200 or $300 or even less. So again, what you're trying to do is to make some effort to ensure that people that stop, our citizens that stop into these service stations, you know, are safe. In other words, they certainly should have someone there to ensure that people at pumps are not being confronted by people. They shouldn't allow people to hang around and in fact, beg people or say they want to pump your gas and things of that nature. So I think this ordinance certainly would be one that I would vote favorably for. If we can do what we did with the service stations in an earlier ordinance, which I think has been shot because we didn't follow the law again, and it's unfortunately I've read. We had 10 days in which to notify the public. At the last meeting we had on September the 1st, I believe the Corporation Council indicated he had not notified these various service station owners or the corporation that he was going to do it, which means that their 6 months, that doesn't, I would assume, does not start to running until you notify him. If you take it from September when he's now notified, assuming he's done it already, and again, I'm sure I could call Attorney McCain and he would tell me, then that would put him sometime in 2021, which means you can't restrict their license. You were going after their license. So I guess you could attempt sometime in 21 to sue them for failure to have, I guess, constructed these bathrooms and handicap, made it handicap accessible, but you didn't get that out. But if we voted to do that one, then I would suggest to council, this is a small cost and it's an immediately it's helping the citizens of this community for them to feel somewhat safe when they enter these stations, if as many shootings and it result even in death are occurring there. So I would be for this ordinance. It makes sense. I don't see where the cost would be that much. If they want to operate, the security guard would be a cost of doing business. They know they have a problem and they certainly should protect the patriot. I think if you go there and things happen to you, I think you probably have a right to sue the service station myself because they're making no effort to protect you and they're inviting you to come in to buy. You're an invitee of this station when you go in to buy gas. So I think to protect themselves, they certainly need some kind of security there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President.
Councilman Brewer?
Yes, the council enacted the security camera ordinance in 2014. So that ordinance is already there. I was wondering why that was inside of this here ordinance here with the security guards and cameras, and it's already on the books there.
Councilman Brewer, doesn't that ordinance deal with cameras to anyone with cameras for a certain period of night? Is it 10 o'clock or something like that?
Yes, any business that's open after 10 p.m. must have surveillance cameras. Okay. And pretty much what we're talking about is the service station is operating 24 hours. I would just say I have seen pretty much travel throughout the city. pretty much every gas station in the city has a surveillance camera aspect. I think the biggest thing, what we're talking about now, I would say probably the security.
Armed security. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest ticker right here. And it wasn't just for gas station. When we passed the one for surveillance cameras, it went for anyone that operated after 10 p.m. had to have surveillance cameras. So when you talk about 24-hour daycares or any type of business inside the city, if you operate after 10 p.m., you failed inside this requirement for the security cameras that you had to have. And with the same requirements, where if the cameras have to run 24 hours, 7 days a week, have 30 days of storage on the magazines at the same time. But I feel this ordinance here with the 24-hour security, meaning 24 hours of service, and if you're operating from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., you have to have the armed security. That kind of troubles me a little bit there with the armed security, because you didn't designate it. Who had to be this armed security? It's kind of blanket. It just says armed security. So that could be anyone posting as security outside of a service station, doing work for the service station as security, now armed outside. So it's kind of void there.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I do.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, of course.
No.
Councilman Lay.
I would assume to be an armed security, you need authorization to do that, not to mere having a gun permit. One of the ways people do it is our reserve officers. We go to the sheriff and he authorizes. We have them all over the place. I think the difference is, again, if you just want to find fault with this ordinance, I doubt very seriously if there have been 2 murders at any daycare or anywhere else that operates full time. They have a special problem going on at service stations.
Yeah.
The chief is telling you that he has special problem. So what he is saying now, that other ordinance in 2014, he now wants to be very specific about it. He's saying service stations. He's not telling everybody in the city to do it at this point, because they may not be having these problems. It's a problem going on here. I stopped him from identifying where the problems were, but in particular, but he did say in general, they're in service stations. So that 2014 could be talking about McDonald's that may be open. They have drive-throughs that may operate 24 hours. Well, again, I doubt if people are being harmed the same as they are possibly at a service station. And again, you just couldn't have a person walk out there saying he's armed. They would have to have some kind of, I would assume, some kind of police authority. And that police authority could either be granted by the sheriff and or their policeman. I know, or it could be, but even if it was a private agency, they would have to have some authority to act. It's not at random. They could tell the janitor, you part-time security and part-time janitor. That wouldn't work.
Right.
Mr. Chair? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Chief,
Chairman, thank you, Councilman Godwin. Mr. Chair, I got a question for Chief Evans. Chief Evans, how much success have you guys had in solving crimes as it relates to security cameras, number one? And of the gas stations in which we've had these shootings, have any of those had video cameras?
So because of the 2014 ordinance, we do gather footage from businesses that are open after 10 p.m. And we've been successful in gathering that video and using it to successfully investigate crime.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the gas station and other locations.
Chief Evans.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, Councilman, go ahead. Councilman.
Just a couple questions, 3 questions. Number one, Chief, do you support this ordinance? Do you think it's a good idea for the city? Number 2, in terms of the surveillance, is there a certain number of days of footage, right? Of course, you can record live footage, but is there a requirement that it be maintained for 30, 60, 90 days? I know data storage is not inexpensive. And thirdly, what is the estimated cost of an armed security guard? And I think to Councilman Brewer's point, are the qualifications specified specifically in the ordinance for who qualifies as an armed security guard? Thank you.
So let's take those in order. So absolutely, the video and pictures, as we say, with everything going on right now, is absolutely crucial in helping us investigate crimes in all sorts, including the gas station cameras and Ring doorbells. To date, when we do get one of these incidents in any locations, we are actually on scene once called so quickly. We haven't run into the incident where we've had to worry about a loop if we're called immediately. If a person is harmed there, we're going to go out to the location immediately. The only thing that we have had an issue with has not been the storage, because most of these places have a video loop that's on an internal system, which we can either download from or take and bring back. The issue has been with them having qualified people on staff in order to do that, or being able to call someone out to do it. Many times the actual workers at the locations don't know how to utilize the equipment. So we've been forced to call in our federal partners from GRID or some of our task force officers to do it. Lastly, as far as security guards, to my knowledge in Indiana, a security guard in Indiana, the classification of a security guard, is only able to effect or detain someone in cases of shoplifting, not anything else. Them being armed and unarmed is a function of their licensing and bonding, and that person is under the authority only to protect themselves or the lives of someone else in the station, not actually affect arrest. A security guard in Indiana cannot do that. You'd have to have some type of law enforcement authority in order to arrest someone or detain someone. Now, I did not sponsor this bill, but I don't think that was the spirit of it. I think the spirit of it is, if I could just elaborate, maybe the fact that having an armed security guard, someone like Councilman Lay said, could possibly solve a particular problem. He's absolutely correct that the gas stations have a particular problem for our citizens.
I guess I would just, one follow-up question, if I may, Mr. Chair. Just quickly for the chief, do we think we have the number of folks who would meet the security guard qualification to cover all of the gas stations during the requisite number of hours? That is to say, is there capacity to actually do this? Are there enough people out there who could fulfill these slots if we're creating this requirement? And I do think it's a concern that they cannot arrest, right, necessarily, depending on how we're defining security guard. Because for them just to sit there with a gun in hostile situations, I'm not sure, we don't want them shooting unnecessarily, I'm certain, given all that's going on nationally. But I'd just be concerned about the proper training of these folks, making sure they do have requisite police training to deal with hostile situations, to learn how to de-escalate and so forth. I mean, we have, I think, 52 or 53 gas stations. Most of those are open after 10 p.m. So that's a lot of shifts, a lot of people who would need to fulfill those slots. That's all.
So if I may, that again, as for a security guard, that's not a police officer. That's not something that we regulate. That would be a private company. They have many of them around here, and I'm not sure about the capacity for them to fill that void or the cost of it. I couldn't even speculate on that.
Chief, could we use our utility officers for a position like that, like was mentioned earlier between Gary and Lake County Sheriff's Department?
So again, that's where the capacity issue comes in. If we had the requisite number of police officers, we can increase patrols around these locations and other things. However, as our discussion, as we discussed earlier, and I want to say this portion of it, the gas stations are in our community are not just a magnet for violence. They are a meeting place. If you look at the locations of some of these gas stations, they're in areas where convenience shopping, grocery shopping is the only source that people in that community that don't have transportation have. Therefore, many, many people in those communities have to frequent those gas stations for a myriad of things. And that is why they're a magnet for everything that goes on, meaning that we would have to be there 24 hours. So having someone on site is the way to curtail it, because we just could not stay there all day, all evening, and answer the amount of calls that we have in the other parts of the city. So I do think that this is absolutely necessary, absolutely helpful, rather, for our citizens to feel safe and to be able to go in the gas station without harassment, without feeling unsafe and being able to having an overall better look for the businesses in the city. But I want to reiterate that the reason that we believe from our data that these incidents happen is because in the locations they happen in, they are the only source of retail that area may have.
Understood. Which promotes a lot of loitering outside of the facility as well. Council members, I'm all for it. I'm all in favor for this. It's a lot of times when I've pulled up at gas stations at 10 o'clock and I thought I was at a convenience store, like the chief said, people just hanging out doing everything. I think their main patrons are just the individuals that live around them. Anyone that's driving by is not going to stop. And I think it'll actually help gas stations to gain new patrons if they see that there's been some form of control placed.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President,
Yes, that's Ms. Brown.
my issue is inside of here, it does not outline what security guard is. And I
Okay.
get back to my previous comment to this.
Hmm.
When you talk about security guard, and this ordinance does not outline what security guard is, that puts anyone in a capacity of being security. It does.
I
I
understand.
understand the concerns and issues of this. My second concern is this will put us as the only city, I will probably say, probably in America, that has throughout the city where if you open after 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. with armed security guards throughout the entire city. Pretty much, I don't know too many of the gas stations that close that's not open 24 hours.
Hmm.
I do understand there's issues not just at the gas station. We have issues at the McDonald's. If the chief will continue to elaborate, there's been shootings at the McDonald's. I mean, there's shootings throughout our city and things happen throughout our city. But to narrow it down to gas stations with armed security, and we're not defining what security guard is, what the parameters are, and to put more guns inside of whoever hands, I think we create a bigger problem long term.
Okay.
That's just my take on it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is gonna come as a surprise to this council. It's called amendments. In
Yes.
other words, if the ordinance is deficient, and if that is the question before it, what about an amendment? Of course, I can't amend because I wouldn't be able to withdraw it. But why can't you guys amend this ordinance where it makes sense to me? So all of a sudden now you don't know what the word amendment means. Whatever is incorrect in the ordinance, you're about to amend all kind of things. Again, the only difference between this ordinance and other ordinances seems to be the source. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe this is the one that the mayor is the sponsor on. Same
Right.
way I thought it was an extremely unfair question for Mr. Godwin to ask the chief of police whether or not he agreed with the mayor. If he continues to disagree, he won't be chief too long, I can assure you that. He's going to revert back to what his rank was before. He is solely under the authority of the mayor. So if he's foolish enough, or anyone's foolish enough to say, well, they disagree with their boss, they might as well resign, as they say that. So again, if the ordinance is deficient in that area, let's amend it. I will not attempt to amend it because the source may cause a problem, but I'm sure this council is smart enough to amend this ordinance to include whatever they want, or send the chief back, tell him to come with an amendment. I don't care whether he's sponsored it or not, send him back to amend the ordinance so it's something we can consider, but to drop it. And I am absolutely not concerned with what they do in California, Mississippi, Alabama, or even Hammond, Indiana. Our people are the ones being harmed. And it's going to come up on another occasion on things we're going to be discussing this afternoon. So it's unimportant who's doing it in other places. It's what we think it should be done here that's important. Here, Gary, Indiana, not other places.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Well, certainly, I don't think it's an unfair question. It seemed like it'd be an easy question if in fact the chief doesn't have a mind of his own. I recall that when the first chief was appointed by the mayor said he would not intervene in the police department. He would allow his chief to be independent, to be a thinker, to offer his recommendations and opinions. And that's exactly what Chief Evans did. My intention was not to ask an unfair question. It's a legitimate question.
He didn't answer it though. You should ask him, make him answer.
I'm still talking.
Yeah, but make him answer.
Please do not interrupt me,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
But that's unimportant. You're holding your hand up.
Come on, point of order, point of order, point of order.
Okay,
Point of
go
order.
ahead. Then I will conclude that you didn't ask him. Go ahead.
Whatever. Mr. Chair, furthermore, I think it's very important that we know what the chief's opinion is. I think it's important to have the definitions, and certainly those can be added via amendment. And I also think it's important to look at how we're defining security guard and whether there is sufficient coverage for the city. And if this is a cost, for the gas stations, there's going to be an ongoing operational cost that's not going to be cheap. Most security guards I know are $25 to $50 an hour, and that's a lot of hours, a lot of days. And so one way to get at this might be a fee that would allow the police department to manage this or increase their patrols within the areas where there are gas stations. So we might assess some kind of permit or fee on the gas stations that would go to the police department that would allow them to increase the human capital that is patrolling within the 4 police districts of the city as it pertains to high crime areas near gas stations. Thank you.
Councilman Godwin.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to apologize to Mr. Godwin. I should have allowed him to conclude. I do apologize for that. But he continues to shoot from the hip. I've represented several private agencies. No one is paid $25 to $30 an hour for a security guard. That's not true. And I don't care what a mayor says. You're putting the person, I saw a councilman penalized because he called the mayor a racist. And again, I wouldn't defend that position. My position is if you're working for him, certain things you cannot say and expect to be still working for him. I had a major fight over that issue. Be quiet, don't call it. So if the chief is never going to have that type of freedom to publicly, he might can question the mayor privately, but to ask each employee that comes before this council, do you agree with what your boss is saying, is an unfair question. And if the Mayor Prince said that, I don't believe him either, that he's going to allow his employees to come forward and just at random say stuff that contradicts him. I do not believe they will be there. So you're going to find that he's going to get rid of them if they continue to contradict him. They don't have that freedom. They don't have the freedom, so you can believe they do. But I do apologize to Mr. Godwin, and I will assure him, but don't hold your hand up. I will assure him that will not happen again in the future. I will not interrupt him.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Councilman, what if we looked at the, and Chief, I'm sorry, I don't leave out of this. What if we looked at the traffic patterns around these gas stations to see which ones have a heavy traffic pattern during the evening and so forth? Then we could place some kind of variable or quantitative variable as far as how many hours a gas station may need a police officer or armed guard.
Mr. Chairman, that would be special legislation. You're not going to be able to get away with that one. I mean, it goes from the sublime to the ridiculous. So now we're going to say that 2 stations have to do it, the other 51 don't have to do it.
No, everyone's going to do it, but it's just.
No, that's called special legislation, though.
Okay.
The ordinance is going to really have to, you can do it to the group, but you can't go within the group and do it to individual stations. You wouldn't be able to do it. Try it and let's see what happens. Just go ahead and try it, see what happens.
I'm looking at the ordinance. Let's see here. Attorney Jenkins, you're with us today, right? Can you speak on this?
Yes. With regards to, I know Councilman Brewer brought up the specificity of security guard. I can definitely add some language to more directly address that. Any types of questions that the council members have. I was expecting, to be honest, I was expecting this to be a little more contentious. I'm surprised there's so much support so far. To be honest, so I mean, I did expect that there would be ongoing discussion as far as what would be, if there were any changes or amendments that would be suggested, or that things that would be needed to make this go more smoothly. So that was the attitude I came into this with. I mean, I can certainly address any questions the council members have as far as what has been represented to me, and then what we need to do to make this go more smoothly. So I am here to answer any questions that may be directed towards me. Then I'm open to any suggestions that if we want to amend anything before we go back in front of the council. So I'm here for that.
To the Corporation Council, I want to draw attention to section 1B with 19 hours. I see you have a time slot of hours there. I mean, I'm going to play devil advocate here just a little bit here. We're just assuming that these businesses will be open from 24 hours and they'll be open. If our ordinance reads 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., what stops them from closing from 6 p.m. and open back up at 7? I mean, to get around the system. I mean, there's like a little loophole sitting here that doesn't stop them from getting around it.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at it, what we did in 2014 with if this is the route that we're going to go, and we're saying we're going to have armed security guards at the gas station here, why not say if any business is open after 10 p.m., you have to have an armed security guard from the hours of 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. or, something of that aspect.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely flexible on time. So I chose the time frame I did for that's generally like throughout the year that can generally be considered nighttime hours, depending on what time of the year, So I imagine most of the criminal activity that is subject to the reason why we created this ordinance has been happening at nighttime hours. So I wanted to cast a broad net, cover that, and those are the hours where we would want armed security to be there. However, if there's a better time that we can come up with, that I'm flexible enough to change that. That is no problem for me.
Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Chief Evans, and I have had a conversation a few times. Armed security is just not important at nighttime because I have a service station that's by my house, and we have a big problem up there. So security sounds like it would be good, but that particular person, the owner of that gas station, will be spending all of his profits and paying for security because his problems start at 6 in the morning. Last week I was on my way to work. I couldn't go in the gas station because the guy was laying across the doorway. I couldn't get in. So I just stayed in my car and went on. But we have problems that armed security, it's going to need more than armed security. And I'm just looking at how much money the owners will be spending. So it's something to think about.
Anyone else?
And Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Brewer?
my comment comes to common nuisance, as Councilwoman Caldwell just outlined, and I believe every district council person knows this for certain, that we have a problem with common nuisance at these gas stations. You have the same individuals, and it's a routine of when police come, even when the police come, they go inside the courts one way and come right back out the next day. So it's a routine problem there. More or less, mental health is a big issue when we start talking about people just hanging around the gas station. I know we're talking about the violence with homicides and things of that nature, trying to deter those issues there. I'm just not sure if this is the right approach.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilman Lake?
no matter what the cost is. I think it would be less than the cost of a life. And in other words, here you have this particular problem. This would be simply a cost of doing business. In other words, they're in the business. That's a cost in doing it. Again, in another ordinance, we're making them do a whole lot more costly of work. Then, I mean, it would be thousands and thousands of dollars. Here, I do not believe anyone is being paid $25 to $30. Now, let's take garden breaks or something. But be as it may, that's a cost of doing business. We also have, you can't just loiter around service stations either. I mean, that's in our ordinances, that you can't do that. We just simply do not seem to be enforcing that. But again, why don't we make the changes, whatever it is, bring it back? You know, in other words, if the council then don't want it, we put it on the agenda, we vote it down, that's all. We vote it up or down. It doesn't matter. We certainly have no reason to kill this in the committee. So let them attempt to amend it. Attorney Jenkins has indicated he can amend it to fit whatever hours they're talking about. But if you do something to get around the law, that won't work either. I'm going to explain that later based upon a memo that was sent around by Mr. Godwin. You guys have, and I'm going to explain it.
And me too.
Yeah, that what you have when it comes up. Well, let me do it now if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Right away.
Do you mind?
No, no.
Okay. On the, and I'm looking at it, on the 4th of September, a memo came from Mr. Eric Reeves indicating he wanted meetings on the 21st, 22nd, and 24th with members of the council. That would be a serial meetings. Now, he talked about economic development. On the 8th, Mr. Godwin converted it to real estate. But even real estate itself, you have to fall within, and I'm not going to bother because you guys don't appear to read the open door law. It's under 6.1. You certainly, it would have to be in a very specific area, which normally means you're about to purchase some real estate. You're involved in contract negotiation over the real estate. That would still be an executive session. Well, think about what you're doing here. Mr. Reeves is calling the meeting. This is not an executive session. He's calling it. But seeing to me, if you were just rational, why wouldn't a single person come to the council? Why would a non-elected official be allowed to call the council to a meeting? If it is something he wants to tell the council, if it falls within the executive session, set it up that 9 people or 8, as the case may be, appear and then he explain it. Here he's violating the open door law, but let me go further than that. The moment you do that, so it won't come as a surprise, and one person on this council know I will do it is Councilwoman Brown. I will notify the public access officer because there's personal liability under Section 7 of the Indiana open door law. If you, the first time you're charged $100, the next time you're charged $500. If you're sued, you would have to get your own attorneys. I'm not sure if Councilman Godwin is licensed in Indiana. He might be. I definitely know Mr. Reeves is not licensed in Indiana. Mr. Williams would not be able to defend you, nor would Mr. Trent. You would have to hire your own. So as you violate these laws, and I'm sure Councilwoman Brown will tell you, I am going to notify the party that would be responsible to stop you from doing it, be it the State Board of Accounts or be it the public access officer. That occurred once before when I was on the council. When it came back, I sued the council myself because I don't want to be walking into a court because my silence would mean that I'm a participant. So read the 2 memos that came out. The first one comes out at economic development. Mr. Godwin somehow converts it to real estate. They don't even come together. Once you do this, you're violating serial law. Once you do that, you're also conspiring to do it. And if I'm wrong, when I notify the public access officer, He'll say I'm wrong, that will end it. If it comes back I'm right, then I will have to make another decision, because I'm not going to pay $1 for this council refusing to follow laws. Not $1. And later on, you'll see where another law is being violated. And this came up. I get an amendment from Attorney Renzo Williams was sent to me. He has no authority to draw up ordinance. We argued this in January. Why do you guys believe because you got 5 votes, 6 votes, whatever the number may be, you can just do things at random to do this? The Corporation Council must draft ordinances. There's no such thing as Corporation Council saying, I won't do it. They do it and then advise the council that it's violating the law. But Attorney Renzo is not authorized to do this. Pretty soon we're going to have Ray Uncle Jimmy sending in ordinances. He just simply is not authorized. I can cite the statute, but it's not. I will cite it. Look under 364912. You will find that says Corporation Council must draft these ordinances. So come on, ladies and gentlemen, be very careful now as you violate the law. You're forcing me to do something I don't want to do. I would prefer you to follow the law and we just vote something up or down, and I have no problem. But if you're violating, you're forcing me to say something, well, I become a conspirator with you. I'm part of it. I don't see why I would want to be part of it. So read Mr. Godwin's memo, read Mr. Reeves, and tell me how you went from economic development to real estate. And he says he's going to have a meeting on the 21st, 22nd, 24th. If you read the serial law, he's having all this within a 7-day period.
Yep.
Yeah, and the council is not calling this. That's the other thing I don't understand. I think Councilwoman Brown will back me up on this. He called the council before about some kind of repairs being made to the park.
Mr. Chairman, no order.
No, he allowed me to do it. He allowed me to do it.
This is not discussing anything on public safety at this time.
Oh,
No.
Well, I'll do it. I'll do it at another time. I'll finish.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would like to just briefly, very briefly, we've spent a lot of time on this. And I agree in part with Attorney Lay. And the reason why I said if, and that's a very important word I used in my letter today, if the conversation is related to a pending real estate transaction, then I don't think it's a problem. However, I agree that according to, and I looked it up myself, section 6.12B2D, if it's related to a real estate transaction up until the point of a contract, and it needs to be in an executive session, and a member could call that, and we could do that, not have to have serial meetings, we could do that all at once with Mr. Reeves. I would imagine that much of the economic development, whether it's what's happening at Gleason or other places, is related to the sales of real estate. But in any event, I don't want to belabor it, but I agree with Councilman Lay, and it was a big if in terms of whether and to what extent that was allowable. Thank you.
Yeah. Last comment, Mr. Chairman. Go ahead and hold the meeting. Then we'll let the public access officer decide whether you can do it. That's the easiest way to do it. I don't think you can. You're getting other legal opinions based on if. Do it, and let's see where it goes.
Back to the meeting. Mr. Jenkins, Attorney Jenkins. Just checking with you. I had to step away for 1 second. Gentlemen, will we take a vote to send this back to Mr. Jenkins for an amendment, or?
Can't vote, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. This is the committee. Let's send this back to Mr. Jenkins for an amendment to this. So as you said,
Mr. Chair.
Brewer, yes.
Attorney Williams, you'll make that recommendation on the floor of the regular council meeting.
Okay.
All right.
No problem. All right.
And I just mentioned, if I can, just very quickly, I know we're way over our time, but even at $20 an hour, if you say it's a 12-hour period, in a month, that's $7,200 in a 30-day month for that gas station. and you multiply that times 12, you're talking about $86,000 per year per gas station. Now, I don't know what the margins are for gas stations, but that is not an insignificant ongoing operational expense. My ordinance, which passed earlier this year, really is a one-time fix. You repair your bathroom, you make it accessible, you open the door to it. It may cost you $4,000, may cost you $10,000, but it's not going to cost you $80,000+ a year. So that's all I'm saying, is that it is a significant ongoing operational cost, not a capital improvement. And so we should not just act like it's going to be a cheap thing. I think it's very important, and all lives are important. And we want to have safe gas stations, but I think we should. I think we shouldn't rush to this. And I don't really care who the sponsor is. That doesn't matter to me. I'm looking at the meat and potatoes of legislation. Thank you.
Any more comments? All right. We got a lot more meetings. Let's this will be coming back to the council chambers, and we will just make a motion. I will make a motion, I'm sorry, for an amendment on this. So can we, at 6:32, gentlemen, can we move on to the next committee meeting? Okay, meeting is adjourned.